Welcome to the Further Light Podcast, presented by Wisconsin Freemasonry, helping you accomplish your Masonic goals through education and more light. And now, I present to you, Brother Chris Ludke.
Listeners, scholars, brothers, this is Brother Chris Ludke, and today I want to explore the Skerrit. Well, that's an odd one. It's not even really a tool that we use in the United States, and yet I do think it's important to understand many of the tools that exist outside of the U.S. We have dealt with the chisel, for example, through an article by Worshipful Brother Pat Choka, and here I want to talk about the Skerrit because it's actually a common tool, one that we see at least once a year during installation, yet we sit there and go, why is the line there? And at this point, I've given away exactly what this is about, but hey, spoilers, let's talk about the Skerrit. You may have heard it mentioned in passing, perhaps during the explanation of working tools in certain Masonic jurisdictions, especially European. But what exactly is the Skerrit? Why is it important? What can it still teach us today in our speculative work as Masons? Let's trace the line, so to speak, from its literal usage in the operative trades to its symbolic role in the lives of Masons across the globe. But as Socrates has taught us, we must first define our terms. So first things first, what is the Skerrit? Well, spelled S-K-E-R-R-I-T. The Skerrit is a tool used to draw straight lines on the ground, often with the aid of a chalk line or cord. Think of it as a simple reel with twine or string that, when pulled taut between two fixed points, allows the craftsman to mark a direct line. In my mind, it's similar to the lines you may see laid out to pour a foundation, where they're strung between poles at a specific height. Or it can be very similar to that chalk line that we have all seen used for laying flooring, cabinet work, leveling surfaces, whatever it happens to be. In the operative building trade, this is essential for laying out foundations and ensuring the structure would follow a planned and orderly path. While it might not be as commonly used today due to advances in laser tools and other modern equipment, the principle behind it remains invaluable. Starting from a fixed point and ensuring the work proceeds in a straight and true direction. In terms of historical context, the word Skerrit is of somewhat obscure origin. It appears less frequently in contemporary dictionaries. Yes, it has historical usage, and we see it well attested in operative masonry and carpentry traditions across Europe, particularly in England. The tool likely found its way into Masonic symbolism through operative guilds, where such devices were essential to laying out straight lines on horizontal surfaces, most commonly in foundation work or brickwork. While the compasses and the square are more familiar symbols to most of us, the Skerrit served a foundational role. In early speculative masonry, particularly during the 18th and 19th centuries, so 17 and 1800s, lectures and rituals sometimes reference tools like the Skerrit, especially in jurisdictions influenced by the British and Irish traditions. While it has never held as prominent a role as the 24-inch gauge or common gavel, its philosophical symbolism runs deep, especially when we consider how Masons are taught to lay out our lives with intention and clarity. So in the operative trades, in practice, the Skerrit is an essential tool for laying out, for planning your ideas. Imagine preparing to build a stone wall, a timber frame, or a brick foundation. You need a reliable way for drawing straight reference lines, and really the Skerrit is that reference line. For example, in bricklaying, you might put that line every couple of courses to make sure everything remains level, even though you might be 2 stories above the ground. The Skerrit offers a simple solution. Run the line between 2 stakes or fixed points, draw your chalk mark, and you now have a guide that ensures the structure would be square and aligned. This notion of alignment is critical, whether it is on a literal wall or a metaphorical path in life. Operative masons use the Skerrit to begin their work with direction and clarity. The same concept echoes through our speculative teachings. Now, if we look at the Skerrit specifically outside of the United States, it is much more prominent. In the workings of the Grand Lodge of England and other Commonwealth countries, such as Canada, the Skerrit is sometimes included among the working tools of the third degree, along with things like the pencil and the compasses. In these traditions, the Skerrit is said to be an instrument which enables us to draw straight lines on the ground, with moral interpretations tied directly to our conduct. It emphasizes laying out the path of our lives with rectitude, adhering to that purpose, and planning our moral foundation with care. This regional difference in ritual practice serves as a reminder that while the symbols may vary slightly, the universal truths behind them are constant. We have integrity, purpose, alignment, and moral planning. So let's look at some interpretations of the Skerrit. How do we apply this in life? Well, we can see it as a symbol of moral direction. The first and most obvious interpretation is the Skerrit is a tool of moral direction. Just as the tool ensures that a physical structure follows a true and direct line, so too should we as Masons strive to walk the straight and narrow path in life. This path is not arbitrary. It begins at a fixed point, our initiation into the craft. From there, we are called to plan and act with a deliberate nature, guided by our working tools and Masonic principles. In this view, the Skerrit reminds us to live with intention. It warns against veering off the course of upright conduct. Every decision we make is like another point along that line, and by staying true to the original plan, we ensure that our spiritual edifice is both strong and aligned with the truth. Another interpretation is the idea of a moral direction coming from a central point. Very, very similar to, for example, the compass or the circumpunct, certain point within a circle. The most straightforward symbolic interpretation is that of establishing moral direction from a spiritual center. In this view, the Skerrit reminds us that our actions, like the lines drawn from a cord, should extend outward from a central principle or moral truth. That center may be the volume of sacred law, our faith, our conscience, or the lessons of the craft. This interpretation emphasizes integrity and very much mixes ideas in American jurisdictions of the compass and the square. When our actions are drawn from a solid moral foundation, they will be straight, purposeful, and just. The Skerrit becomes a reminder to begin all endeavors, whether temporal or spiritual, with a grounded center. It's also a symbol of staying within due bounds. Again, a certain point within a circle in American lodges. So another interpretation focuses on the Skerrit's ability to draw a circle from a fixed point. In this sense, the circle represents the boundary of our responsibilities and behavior. Mason is taught to circumscribe their desires and keep their passions within due bounds. The Skerrit becomes a visual metaphor for that process, literally drawing the line between right and wrong, moderation and excess. This interpretation aligns well with the broader Masonic emphasis on self-discipline, temperance, and ethical living. It urges the Mason to understand the limits of his conduct and to act with consideration, always staying within the circle of virtue. The Skerrit can also be a symbol of planning and purpose. It represents the necessity of planning before building. As operative Masons would never lay the first stone without marking the line, so speculative Masons must be deliberate in laying the foundations of their lives. This interpretation challenges us to reflect. Are we acting with purpose? Are our daily labors connected to a larger plan? In speculative terms, this could relate to our commitments, such as family, vocation, service to others, and our dedication to the craft. The Skerrit asks us not just to build, but to build with a vision. It tells us that proper planning leads to proper living. Finally, the Skerrit can be interpreted as a symbol of unity. When laying the line, the cord is drawn between two fixed points. Neither can exist in isolation. They must be connected. So it is with Masonic Brotherhood. We are all part of the same line, bound by shared principles and a common vision. The Skerrit thus becomes a metaphor for the invisible bonds that connect us. Our journey may start at different points, different professions, cultures, or life experiences. But through the craft, we're all aligned towards the same great work. So what's our walkaway? What should you take from the Skerrit? Though it's a relatively obscure working tool in most American jurisdictions, it does offer powerful symbols for modern Masons. It teaches us to begin with purpose, to plan our conduct carefully, and to walk a straight and upright path. It reminds us that our work must be both measured and aligned, not only with the rules of geometry, but with the higher laws of morality and consciousness. And perhaps most importantly, it reminds us that while we build as individuals, we are never building alone. Our efforts are connected line by line, stone by stone, to the greater temple not made with hands. So the next time you open your ritual book or step into a lodge, take a moment to reflect on the tools that are not always front and center. The Skerrit might not be as popular as a square and compass, but its quiet wisdom holds the potential to guide your entire Masonic journey. This is why it is there on the table at every initiation. We call out the line. When we do so, we're calling out the Skerrit. It does exist in our ritual, just not in the lessons. It's odd how things can hold on, and we can get the ghost of the past through artifacts in the present. But until next time, walk uprightly, act with intention, and always draw your line with care. Thank you for joining me, Brother Chris Leakey, and the entire Further Light team on your quest to find more light through Masonry.
Are you interested in learning more about Freemasonry in Wisconsin? Visit wisconsinmasons.org to learn more about Masonry and access further educational content and more light. Once again, that address is wimasons.org. Any questions, comments, or suggestions, please email us at education@wisconsinmasons.org. And thank you for listening.